Okay.
Coach, you score 150 points. Usually would expect that to, result in a win. Just what did you kind of see over the course of this being such a high scoring game that you guys couldn't get the upper hand in?
Yeah, I think first half we had a lot of breakdowns from an execution standpoint. Um, and that led to both teams shot it well. Obviously, we just have to do more to try to impact that percentage. More shots aren't quite as clean. I thought we did a better job with that in the second half, um, as far as making them work harder. Um, the first half, our transition defense wasn't as good as it needs to be. But I mean, by and large, kind of a sweep. We need to be better defensively. So I'd have to give you a number of things. That it wasn't one particular thing that impacted it. There was a lot of things.
You had 4 seconds to come up with a last effort
Yeah.
shot. What did you think of that play?
Yeah, we
Did you
always
think
talk
that
about
was-
the last play, and it's because it's significant. Curl train to the lane. How the inbounder plays the pass is a big part of whether you're able to receive those passes. He backed up, took that initial pass away, run that before Trey gets his floater. He did a good job of, reacting to that and bouncing back, and those are shots that he makes. And I thought it's always hard to get a wide open look at the end of the game. So you feel good about getting the player or getting the ball in the right guy's hands. And if you couldn't get it in bounds, there was a back end for JJ. So
It looked like V dislocated his index finger. You had Jalen falling and hitting the back of his head. What can you say of those two guys, especially at a point where you don't have a ton of depth right now, playing through injuries and being available as it were?
yeah, we talked about some of that before the game. That was both significant plays. We weren't sure if Jalen was going to be able to come back in the game. Same thing with Veet when he was shooting the free throws. Both of them, there's a level of toughness that's required to do that. It's hard to shoot the ball like Veet did early on, where you didn't miss after you've dislocated your finger. But courage, and he hit another one. He missed a couple, and obviously what JJ did, they're able to stay focused and just compete and figure that part out after the game.
Coach, looking at the stat line, it's pretty even through basically every stat other than rebounding. Do you feel like the Kristaps Porzingis missing tonight's game and like the lack of size is what really did you guys in?
Yeah, I mean, we have to. There's no way to. It doesn't do any good to kind of lament those things. I think if you do that, you take your focus away from what you can do and what you have to do. So we've got to rebound collectively. That's obviously important. I didn't think the defensive rebounding, was as pivotal as just containing the ball in some of those drives, and that's what they do. I mean, they lead the league in closeout situations and try to prevent them from getting middle, and that's why you need to get back in transition because that creates it. So a lot of things there that big picture that if we do 5% better, 10% better, it starts to add up.
How do you feel about like the percentage of half-court defense plays where you're in rotation? Is it trade off with the pressure on the ball, or is it happening too often? How do you feel about that at this point?
Well, O's working his tail off at 6'8". So if as I mentioned, the ball can get in the paint a lot of ways. And if we're backed up, we have a 6'8" center at the rim. So those are all trade-offs. I think the answer to the best answer is to try to have some variety in your coverages. It's hard against them. We did that tonight. We've done that in other games, whether you're switching 1 through 5. They're driving by and getting in the paint. It's something we look at and talk about a lot. and try to work on. The thing about those rotations is when you do have them, you know, it's that much more important to not get beat middle. It's that much more important to not go for a Okoro's shot fake, which we did a couple of times. So there's more opportunities, or to make mistakes, and that requires us to be even more disciplined. There's times when we're in a certain coverage and we're not up high enough, and they're getting downhill. And Giddy's a big guard, maybe 6'6", 6'7". That's I was an inch taller than him. So we got to try to make our defense, fit our personnel, and we got to be good at what we do. Our margin isn't great in those situations. But I don't think. I think a lot of times those closeout situations, they're coming down in transition, and we got to have more bodies back there. As I said, it's 5% here, 10% here, 7% here. We just got to be 3% better across the board. And obviously, as guys commented earlier, you look at this. You look at what you did from an offensive standpoint. I thought Trey and JJ really found a rhythm together. We've talked about that. The last few games, and that was good to see. Okay.